Topeka's railroad roots run deep, and for those behind Iron Rail Brewing Company, so does the passion for locally crafted beer. An incredible menu, innovative brews, and a love for Topeka. That's what Iron Rail Brewing is all about. So here we are, Iron Rail Brewing. We are with the brewmaster, Don King. Don, thanks for taking the time for us today. And Iron Rail, I mean, what are we all about here?
So here we're all about beer, great food. You know, this really kind of cozy brew pub environment in downtown Topeka, for sure, yeah. And
Iron Rail obviously is a nod to the rich railroad history, so how did we choose the name? I mean, why Iron Rail?
So the history kind of goes back to Cyrus K. Holliday was kind of would be considered kind of a founder of Topeka. And you know, back in 1868, he goes and he secures funding in New York to come back to bring it back to Topeka to start building the railroad. And just like a lot of towns of that day or cities of that day, they sprung up around railroad or transportation. And so it's kind of you know, paying homage to that history that kind of really was the beginning of downtown Topeka, Kansas.
And why is it important that we have brew pubs in Topeka? I mean, that culture, what are you guys trying to bring?
I think what we're bringing is we're becoming part of that revitalization of downtown. You know, as a lot of people have moved away or a lot of businesses have moved away, we're trying to bring that, you know, that anchor of the community. You know, in a lot of places that we've seen with revitalization, that brew pub is the anchor of the community where people come in and they meet and they'll say, hey, meet me down at the brewery, we'll have a beer and talk about stuff. And we see a lot of people coming here and they're having conversations, they're laughing, they're joking, they're meeting their families, they're having events here and that sort of thing. And it's just that kind of all around community vibe of craft beer along with, you know, good food to eat. So.
And that's why I love the term community. So what would you say to a person that thinks, brew pubs are just for beer nerds and there's nothing here for me? I mean, how do you get that person in here?
Well, that's just not the case, obviously. I mean, we have beer that anybody can enjoy. We try to cater to, you know, all kinds of taste. We don't have a lot of real over-the-top, just singular specialty beer here that, you know, like sours or something like that's all you would find. But we want to be able to have that wide range of what I call lemonade to motor oil, right? You have kind of the lighter beers all the way to the very dark beers, and we'll have stuff in between that everybody can enjoy. I would say, you know, come down here, bring your family, bring your friends. There's definitely going to be something on the drink and the beer menu for you and everyone in your party.
And that's what I love, that people really realize that, hey, you know, I don't have to be that person that understands the process or, you know, get super deep into it. You can just come and have an awesome time. And that's really what it's all about, just that welcoming community. Absolutely. And the food, I mean, you guys have an incredible menu. I mean, from shrimp and grits to the smoked items to there's something. Is the beer incorporated into the menu as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We use some of the beer in like our beer cheese. We use the stout, and we actually have a stout float here as kind of a dessert type thing. And we are looking more and more all the time to have kind of beer forward menu items and incorporate the beer and have the beer designed around the menu or vice versa. You know, the chef back there, he comes up with something and he says, hey, I think I have something that would be really good if you designed the beer around it. I'll definitely engage that, look at the flavor, the profile, what it's about, and see what would pair really well with this, that somebody would want to order this along with the beer because they go so well together.
Awesome. I mean, that's what I love, and it's that discovery process, you know? I mean, you get to come and you get to learn, you know, your slice of life and why you guys do things the way you do things. And you have a pretty unique brew house as well. I know we can kind of see it behind us a little bit there, and we're going to pop down and see what it looks like in the brew house there, but what makes that unique?
I think what makes it unique is that it's in a very small space. It needed to be designed that way, and as you'll see down there, and you can probably see behind us, of course, is that we have stacked tanks as well as stacked fermenters, and so they kind of come up from the bottom and up through the top of the main floor here, and they become a very prominent part of the aesthetics of the restaurant. People walk in the front door and they see that steel right away. It's right there. It's like, you know, you're in a brewery. It's not like, where's the brewery at? It's right there, and it's very, very prominent. And I know that I enjoy, like if I'm at a place and I'm drinking a beer and I can see the equipment and I can see people actually doing stuff, it's exciting to be around that, and rather than it being behind closed doors where nobody can see it, or at a production facility across town. I think having it locally brewed, that just somehow enhances the experience. I know for me, and I think for a lot of people.
Well, I'm excited. Let's go take a peek and see what the brew house looks like.
Well, my passion for beer came from, of course, the love of beer and the science around beer.
I find it fascinating. I love the idea that a beer that I like or that I can imagine that I would like, that I can design it myself and brew it myself, and it is something amazing for me.
So the beautiful part of any brew pub, the beer, obviously very near and dear to your heart going on. And what I love about it in today's world is like there's so many offerings. It's not like you have to like everything that's out there, but there's surely going to be something that you are going to like. So if let's act like I know nothing about beer. I probably don't in my own mind. But where would you start me off? I mean, what is a question you would ask me if I'm looking for a beer?
So generally the first thing we ask somebody that comes in and they're maybe not real versed or not sure what they want is, well, what do you normally drink? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't drink beer, or I drink wine, or I drink mixed drinks, or whatever the case may be. The thing I love about that is it's a new person coming in, and you can kind of explore where they want to go with it and their taste. Generally, like with wine drinkers, for some reason they seem to gravitate a little more towards Belgian style beers like saisons and that sort of thing, or Belgian, single beers or whatever the case may be, and they seem to really go towards that. If we have somebody that normally drinks like domestic beers, we generally start them off on something a little bit lighter. We may kind of ease them into like a wheat or a Kolsch, something that's a little bit closer to what they've had. Something like our lager here is also something, because it's the same type of beer, it's a lager style beer like a domestic, then they tend to be a little more comfortable with it. It has that crisp cleanness of a lager beer.
So I'm just looking at the offerings here. So start me off on something light. I say, like, I'm just looking for something, it has some body, but I mean light. I don't want to be punched in the face with, high hop content or something.
Sure. Well, here's one of our special releases, Gold Star Lager. This is a limited edition release here, but that's just a very light. You're not going to have a lot of necessarily hop aroma or bitterness from it, and actually lager yeast are designed not to give off a lot of what's called phenols and esters that ale yeasts give off a lot more of that. They ferment at a higher temperature, whereas lagers are a much lower temperature when they ferment, and so you're just getting more of that malt character that's shining through on that beer.
And so I can see that. I mean, it's still a good flavor profile, but it's lighter, be easier for someone to start with. And like I say, no pathway. It's not like join us, that you're on something. So what would be something on the other end of the spectrum?
So the other end of the spectrum would be something all the way to the other end here, like our stout, our super cheap stout, and that's a staple that's available here all the time. A lot of times you have people that they drink coffee, or they like chocolate and that sort of thing. And it appeals maybe more to their palate. I'm surprised actually I run across so many people who really like dark beers like stouts and porters and even brown ales and that sort of thing, and that's some of them even exclusively will drink that. Like, I only drink dark beers, and I find that kind of interesting because I a lot of times feel like sometimes people are maybe a little bit scared of a stout. It appears like, oh, it must be a lot, it must be really thick and it must be a higher ABV and very, very hoppy, and that's just not the case. Styles are defined within those ranges, but this really is the difference in the color more than anything. And of course the flavors that come with those malts, like roasted barley and chocolate malt and that sort of thing, that give it its flavor profile, but it's not necessarily less approachable than something like a pale ale or even a wheat beer.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Come in and talk to the bartender or nab Don when you're here the next time, and it's all about learning and having fun.